Welcome to ReactJS video series. In this video I'm going to talk about state in ReactJS. So before jump directly to the code, I just give you a brief about state. So state in ReactJS. So in this video I'm going to cover what is state, where we initialize state in ReactJS, how state work, and how state re-render the browser. And at the end we just give you a code example so that you can see how state work in ReactJS. So what exactly is state? State is a user defined and it's a simple plain JavaScript object, and state work as a local variable for the component. We can say local variable for the component because the state you cannot access outside of the component. So that's why it's a local for that particular component. Where we initialize state in ReactJS, the only place where you can initialize and assign state is inside the constructor. So constructor inside the class component should always call a base constructor with the props. You can see here we have a constructor. By default parameter is props, and inside the constructor you can say super props. More detail about super props we will discuss in my next video, but here I just give you like why we are using super props, because when you pass props to the super function, the props get assigned to this, otherwise we will get a reference error. That's why we are using super props. And this dot state, and then we just have a JavaScript object, is a plain object. So this is the way how you assign state inside the constructor. How to modify state? So whenever we are talking about modifying the state, always remember we always use setState. So this dot setState, and then whatever variable you want to modify, you can put it inside this setState. So this is the correct behavior. Most of the guy use this way, but this is incorrect behavior to assign or modify state. How state is re-render? So whenever we're talking about rendering means refreshing the browser. So state always use observer pattern. So whenever state modify based on any user action may be click event, maybe change event, maybe drop down change or something like, or maybe you are hitting the API, get the response and display data in the browser. So any kind of action, whenever the state modify, React always observe the changes and will re-render the component to the browser. And always remember, whenever we change the state, only that component will re-render where that state exists, and state is responsible for re-rendering the component. So it's like it's forcefully render the component whenever we change the state. Now I'm gonna show you through the code example like how state work in a real. Okay, so as we discussed, like in this component I'm gonna create a constructor function. I'm gonna create a constructor. By default parameter is props, and as I said we are using super props, otherwise we get a reference error. Okay, so we have a super. Now I'm gonna assign state here, this dot state, and then a plain object. We can say first name, I just give Brajesh, last name I just give Kumar. So this is the way how you assign state inside the constructor. Now it's time to create a render function. So render function is a function that return element to the browser. So in a render function you return some element. and that element will display inside the browser body. So we can say like div. Okay, I just simple create a paragraph here like testing, and now I save it. You can see here in this browser, now you can see a testing here. Okay, it means the render working perfectly fine. Now, so I already assigned a state here inside the constructor. Now it's time to use that state variable inside the render and display in the browser. So we can use const first name, last name, this.state. Simple. Now I just bind this first name here. Okay, and I just use again. Okay, and I just use last name perfectly. So now you can see here in a constructor I just assign first name, last name is Brijesh and Kumar, and now here inside the render function we can access that state variable here, Brijesh and Kumar. So this is the simple way how to assign the state inside the constructor and how to use and display data in a browser. Now I'm gonna create a button, and on click on that button we change the state. Let's see how. We just create a button element here. Okay, oops. Okay, click here, and now here I just use on click handler. So click handler we always use this dot method name is user defined. So I just use here on click handler. Okay, and then I just create a function on click handler here. Okay, and here so whenever okay, so now I just create a button here and on click handler. So on click on this button I want to change my first name from Brijesh to something else. Okay, so as we discussed, whenever we are going to modify any state we always use setState. Okay, and then first name is I'm gonna change with Brijesh. So earlier it was Brijesh, now I would like to change to Amit. I just save it. Okay, you can see here Brijesh Kumar. I just click on this here. Oops, we getting error. Okay, so what this error telling us, this error says like cannot read property setState of undefined. The reason because we are using this property inside on click handler, so we have nothing inside this. If you use the console for this you get undefined. So to fix this issue we need to bind this on click handler inside the constructor. Always remember whenever we create any event we always use the same. It must bind inside the constructor, and it's simple. Just binding is very simple. Just use this dot click handler, this dot click handler dot bind, and this simple. Now you save it. Okay, now I'm gonna click here. You can see it's changed to Amit. Again I'm trying. Okay, Brijesh Kumar, I just click here. Perfect. So this is the first name. If you want to change the last name as well, you can do the same thing. Last name is Brijesh. Okay, so Kumar to Singh. Just save it. Okay, when you click on the click button you can see Amit Singh. So this is the way how to assign the constructor, assign state inside the constructor. This is the way how to bind the event, and this is the way how to modify state in React.js. And inside the render function, this is the way how you display data in a browser. So this is the state, and in the next video we are talking about super and props.